Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Reynolds, independent financial advisor, owner of Elevation Financial, and I am glad you are here today. Hope you're having a great day. We're going to talk today about partnerships in business. Specifically, should I start a business with a partner? What should I think about? Is it even worth it? Is it a horrible idea? Is it a great idea? All the stuff that I know, at least, about partnerships in business. So, as always, let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Reynolds, independent financial advisor and owner of Elevation Financial. Thanks for joining me today. Glad you are here. We're talking business partnerships today. I'm going to share with you everything that I know about business partnerships, which may not be much, but it's something. It's probably more than some and less than some, and hopefully will be somewhat useful to those of you who are thinking about business partnerships. So as you know, or you probably know anyway, I am very pro entrepreneurship. I have been a business owner for like 25 years now. That's kind of what I've done all my life. I started my first business in college as a student, and from there I was hooked. I never looked back. I have always been a business owner. So it's been a wonderful journey. It's been awesome. It's kind of in my DNA. I can't imagine doing anything else but owning businesses. So it's kind of who I am. It's not for everybody. I get that, but that's who I am. So I know a lot of my clients and a lot of people that I talk to are also interested in business ownership. I think I've written about this before. I think business ownership is one of the pillars of wealth. Along with investing and real estate, I think that entrepreneurship and business ownership is a really significant pillar of wealth. It's something that is one of the best ways to build wealth and to increase your income, to increase your stability, your freedom, your satisfaction in life. Just the control and the things that come with it are phenomenal. So obviously, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. I mean, there's some downsides to owning a business as well. There's lots of stress and ups and downs, but in general, I think it's all worth it. So I'm not trying to make this a spiel for entrepreneurship, but I kind of want to give you some background on just kind of what's in my DNA. So I'm going to talk about partnerships. A lot of times, business owners will be the only owner. They will start a business themselves. They'll be the kind of the running the show themselves, and that works out fine for a lot of people. Others are interested in partnerships, or maybe they are in partnerships. And I'm going to talk about this today because I've done kind of a 180 on partnerships, and I kind of discovered this recently a few days ago when I'm in quite a few different online discussion forums, and in one of the forums, someone was asking about partnerships, and she was asking about, "Hey, I'm thinking about entering a partnership with some other partners. What should I be thinking about?" And her specific question was centered around what if things go wrong? What do I need to put in place? What sorts of rules of engagement do I need to put in place for any kind of conflict resolution meetings, things like that? And so it really prompted an answer that kind of uncovered some of my feelings about partnership as well. So I'm kind of turning that comment into today's episode because I wrote a big long comment, and I'm basically going to kind of summarize some of the thoughts from that comment in this episode today because I think it's really interesting, at least for me, to think through when it comes to partnerships. So here's my stance on partnerships. First of all, for a long time, I was anti-partnership. I think a lot of that came from a couple sources. One is when I first started my very first business in 1996, way back when, in my college days in 96, I started the business with a partner and then acquired a third partner. So there were three of us eventually in the business. And I don't want to say it was a disaster because it wasn't. It was in many ways a great experience, but it also kind of soured me on the idea of partnership because frankly, all three of us were kind of young and stupid. Like we didn't really know what we were doing. We were, very young. It was our first business. A lot of things went well, but a lot of things went really bad as well. And, we didn't really have the emotional intelligence or the tools to really work together well. We were, in sync in a lot of things, but also in conflict in a lot of things. And eventually those two partners left on good terms. It was fine, no big deal, but they left to kind of do other things, kind of rolled the ownership up into me. And when I was running the business on my own after that, things got a lot easier for me. They got a lot more kind of straightforward. Decisions were made easier. Just overall, it was just a better experience. So it kind of turned me on to the idea of sole ownership is the way to go, and partnerships were bad. Also, I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan, as many of you know, and Dave Ramsey is very anti-partnership, and so listening to him kind of reinforced my prior bias that partnerships are rarely good. They typically don't work out, and so I just kind of had in my head that partnerships didn't work out. Since then, I've done a complete 180, and there are some reasons for that, and I want to kind of tell you why, and I want to kind of explain my current thinking on partnerships, which is very different than it used to be. So first off, I own 4 businesses. Besides this one, I also own 3 other businesses with partners. This is my Elevation Financial is just mine, but my 3 other businesses are partnerships. I own 2 of them with one other partner, and the other one with 2 partners. So one of them has 3 owners, including me, and the others have 2 owners, including me. So I have all of them with different people. They're all different partners. So my current experience with partnerships has been a lot different in a good way. And it has nothing to do with the people, in my opinion. I mean, I guess it does have something to do with that, but in general, timing is part of it. But I've learned a lot since my early days of partnership. I think a lot of times I would approach a partnership, or I would approach the business with my partners with the idea that, I need them to be the right person to work with me, or I need to they need to come around to my way of thinking or whatever. And going forward, I would always kind of tell people, hey, make sure you find the right partner for you. Make sure you really vet them carefully and make sure they are, a good partner and all that stuff. That's important to kind of have those thoughts. But I kind of discovered that it's kind of like a marriage. It's not so much that you have to find the right person, but a big healthy dose of it has to be, you have to be the right person. You have to be someone that is the right partner for that other person and for the business. And that may seem obvious to many who are, more experienced than I am in this, but that was a big realization for me, that my early days of business partnership were kind of soured by my inexperience and my lack of emotional intelligence. And I wasn't the right partner. I wasn't being the right partner. So that's kind of a big factor, I think, in the success of partnerships. And what does it mean to be the right partner? Well, for me, it means to put my partner's needs at the forefront of my mind. You have to really, or I personally thinking through this way, I feel like I have to put the other partner's needs ahead of my own many times, and maybe consistently, and hoping they do the same for me. But that's nothing I can control. The thing I can control is how I enter the partnership and how I react and how I contribute. And the business is important, but if you make the relationship just as important or more important, then the business has a way of working out better. So a lot of times I see, or at least my theory is, I see partnerships formed where both parties think, okay, the business is super important and the business, serves us. And, if I pick at something my partner is doing or not doing that's going to hurt the business, that's a big deal for me. And that's kind of a backwards way of thinking, in my opinion. If you think of, how can we make this business something that serves us and makes and helps my partner, maybe even more than me, and I care about their needs front and center, then the business is going to work a lot better. So to me, being the right partner is extremely important. Also, when you are thinking of starting a business with a partner, I think it's really important to think through how well you know each other and to talk about the values you share and your ideas for the business. So let's say you're starting something. Let's say you're early in the business, you're starting a business with a partner. There are different ways you can approach it. In some of my businesses, actually in all of them, because we're at a pretty relaxed point at this point, and all of us agree in my partnership world that, these are businesses that are meant to give quality of life. And so if you're entering a partnership with someone who they feel like this business is like their main thing, it's their primary interest, they're kind of really obsessive about it, and it's going to be the career they're sinking their resources into, and you're thinking of it more like a side gig, then you're going to have conflicts because they're constantly going to be disappointed in you and you're going to be stressed out by them. But if you both approach it with that same mindset, then you're going to have the same energy behind it. Or maybe you both agree, or all partners agree that, hey, this is an experimental kind of side gig that we're trying together, but we all agree that, we're not saving babies here. It's not the end of the world if something goes wrong. We're going to have a relaxed approach to it. So it's really important to be in sync with your partners and make sure that you kind of agree on what your attitude is toward the business. Um, the vibe has to be kind of in sync there. The vibe that you have has to be similar so that you are in sync about your attitude toward the business. Also, I think it's important to have kind of a working relationship and a background before you enter a relationship. A lot of people they start a business partnership with people they don't really know that well. They start a partnership with somebody they have never worked with before, or they're not friends with, or they just kind of were networked by some occurrence, but it didn't necessarily have a lot of context behind it. So in all of my partnerships that I am in now, I've worked with the other person or the people. They have been friends, or they are friends now, obviously, or both. I think in general it's been both. I consider them all friends. In my early days, I formed a partnership with someone I kind of just casually knew, and was like, "Hey, we're both doing this similar thing. Let's start a business together." Okay, great. And we didn't really know each other that well. We had no shared history. We had no shared connection together. So I think it's really important that if you are going to be in a partnership with someone in business, that you have a history with them, you have some sort of background, you have some sort of working relationship or friendship with them. On the friendship side, a lot of people say, well, friendships don't make great partnerships because you can sour the friendship. I think that can be true in a lot of cases. But one of my partnerships is with someone who was a friend way before we were business partners. We have been friends for a long time before we thought of starting a business together. And we talked it through. We understood that, here's the way we're going to approach it. Here's kind of the ideas behind it. And we both agreed that we had the right vibe, we had the right goals, and the friendship was solid and authentic enough that we felt like we could handle whatever issues might arise. And that's been the case. And so again, I've done a 180. I've done a complete turnaround on partnerships. I have 3 phenomenal partnerships. 3 of my businesses are partnerships, and they're awesome. They are so much fun. That's not perfect all the time, but I can't think of the last time there's been a major issue that we haven't been able to overcome, and it's been a great experience. So that's kind of my thinking behind partnerships. And another thing that actually one of my business partners commented on this same comment that I made and added a lot to it. So I'm going to kind of share that as well. And she said, it's also really good to make sure you have clearly defined areas of responsibility. So a lot of times I see partnerships fail because both people are really good at selling, or both people are really good at operations or finance or logistics or marketing or whatever. And they kind of vie for the same job, so to speak, and the same responsibilities. Partnerships to me work really, really well when you are kind of the opposites attract kind of mode, where one example is, in one of my businesses, the partner I'm referring to now, she handles most of the brand facing, the content, the thought leadership, the stuff that goes with kind of teaching and educating. And I handle what I call the nerdy stuff. I handle the technology, some of the marketing stuff, some of the finance stuff, some of the logistical nitty gritty stuff, administrative things like that. I really enjoy that part of that particular business. And so we have a really good division of labor there. It's not to say that one of us, that we work the same amount. Like sometimes, I'm putting in more hours, sometimes she's putting in more hours. We don't really know necessarily who's working more at any given time, because it doesn't matter. We know that we both bring value to the business in different ways, and that's what's important to us. And that's very similar across my other businesses as well. It's pretty much the same thing. In other businesses, I'm more of the marketing and the sales end of things, and my partners are more of the technology development end behind the scenes. And so when you bring your own unique strengths to a partnership, that works really, really well, because you're doing more than one person could do. Obviously, you have different skill sets you're bringing to the table, and you're able to really create a more complete leadership kind of context that drives the business forward. So I really like that as well. So again, that's kind of my stance on partnerships. I know a lot of people are against them. A lot of prominent talking heads in the finance industry are against them, and there's some merit to that. But in my experience, there are ways to approach partnerships that can make them extremely successful, extremely fulfilling, and a lot of fun. And honestly, when you're in business with a partner, it's not as lonely. Entrepreneurship is kind of lonely. I mean, honestly, it's stressful at times because all the weight is on your shoulders. You're the one handling everything. And depending on the business, that can be really overwhelming. But when you have a business partner to share that responsibility with, it's very inspiring sometimes. You inspire each other. You can support each other. The ideas are better when you're sharing ideas and kind of challenging each other. And that can be a great thing. So I'm not saying partnerships are great for everybody, but my advice, if you are thinking of starting a business and you are thinking of starting a business with a partner, just to kind of recap, I would advise that you make sure you have a shared history between you. It's probably not ideal to just randomly partner with someone you don't know a lot about, but make sure it's someone you have a shared history with. You've worked with them before, you understand them well, you have a shared mutual respect, and if that's there, that's a good start. Also, make sure that you have good general roles defined. Who's going to do what? Who's in charge of what area of the business, and who's in charge of the other stuff? Not necessarily like nitty gritty, like task list kind of stuff, but more of a general area. Like, hey, this person's in charge of sales and marketing. This person's in charge of service delivery and administrative or something like that, or technology or whatever it is, or break it up in different ways. Also, when you are approaching partnership, I would advise you not to think of it as, what can this partnership do for me? Or I've got to find the right person, or I hope they're the right person. You have to be the right person. You can't control what the other person does. You have to be someone that is worthy of being in that partnership. You have to be someone that respects your partner, that lifts them up, that cares about their needs, sometimes more than your needs or the business needs. I'd say frequently or often, or maybe always, more than your needs or the business needs. And that will go a long way toward creating an environment that is rich for growth and rich for satisfaction in your business. So that's my advice on partnerships. Now, side note, some people are very focused on creating the right operating agreement, and making sure you have rules of engagement for mediation and stuff like that. And my partner, who commented on the same comment, also brought this up. She said, if you have to think through like how you're going to mediate challenges right off the bat, it may not be the right partnership. Like, maybe you're not a good fit for each other if you're having to think through that right off the bat. There's something to be said for creating an operating agreement that says, hey, if something happens, here's, if one partner wants to leave the business, what happens? If one partner does this or that, what happens? That's fine. I agree with putting that agreement together. There's nothing wrong with that, and it can be very helpful. But if you have to go to the point of thinking through all the horrible worst case scenarios and what happens in those scenarios, and that's constantly on your mind, there's probably a red flag. There's probably a signal that maybe this needs some more thought or exploration before you move forward. A business partnership should be fun. It should be, I want to say easy, but it should be in the flow. If it should feel like you're in a good flow, it should feel like it is removing friction from the business. It's removing friction from your role in the business. It should be something that is empowering for you. So again, my 180 in partnerships, that's kind of the story behind it. I think it can be a great thing if you think through those elements. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Let me know what your experience has been with partnerships, what your thoughts are, if you have been in them before, if you're thinking of entering them, good and bad. I'd love to hear stories from you. You can email that to me at podcast@elevationfinancial.com, or post comments as well. So with that, I would love to wrap up there and remind you that you can find me on the web at elevationfinancial.com. I am an independent financial advisor, and I help my clients with stuff like this a lot, especially business owners, but anyone who wants help with money, and working through money challenges, and working through thinking about their future with money and how to manage it. That's what I do. So give me a shout. You can book a meeting on my website at elevationfinancial.com. As always, thanks for joining me today. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. All righty. Thanks, everyone. I want to thank Mark, who is here. I'm going to actually Mark give me a kind of a high five wave there. So Mark, thanks for joining today. I appreciate you being a viewer on the show today. I see a few live viewers there still. So if you have questions, I would love to hear your comments. I'm going to stay here about 10 more seconds or so. So if you have a comment, pop it in the comments there below, whether on Facebook or YouTube, and I will see them and I can pop them on screen. If you have no comments, that's all right. I'll go ahead and wrap up. But hey, Jennifer says, great show today. Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Good to see you. I'm really glad you were here. So appreciate the feedback on that. So Like I said, any more comments, pop them in now. Otherwise, I will get wrapping up here, and this will be posted to YouTube and to Facebook. And Mark says, thanks. Thanks, Mark. Glad you're here. Mark goes by Blades Davis, so I know Mark. I know his first name there. So, Mark, thanks for joining. Have a great day, everyone. See you next time. Thanks.